What up? Welcome into another episode of the Patriots podcast. I'm Sean here with Ryan and JJ.
Hello.
What's up?
You heard that hello, ladies and gentlemen. That means we got all three back. JJ is back on the mainland. How was the time in Hawaii?
Fantastic. A lot of sunshine. Started raining when we left, so fantastic.
So you knew it was time to leave. So tell me, were you thinking about the Patriots offensive coaching staff the entire time? Because I know it's preoccupied you for a few months at this point.
Definitely crossed my mind. I was looking, I'd check updates once a day, but that was about it.
Yeah. So the Patriots went ahead and did something I don't remember ever happening by them before. Excuse me. When they made a public announcement that they were going to be interviewing for offensive coordinator position.
Yeah.
And at the same time that they were working to extend Gerard Mayo. So it's like these, I don't know if they were trying to distract from it. Like, hey, we got a good guy on defense. We're going to try to keep him. By the way, we sucked on offense. We're going to look for new people. So far this week, they have interviewed Nick Haley, who's been the team's tight ends coach. They interviewed Keenan McCardell, who apparently was a Vikings assistant coach, previous player.
Former player,
who I believe played for Belichick in Cleveland. And then Adrian Clem was just interviewed. Adrian Clem, who was also played for the Patriots, he was drafted in, I think, 2000. He might have been their first pick in 2000.
Hopefully he's a better coach than he was a player.
Yeah.
He's been not a good player. An offensive assistant at Oregon for a couple of years now, it sounds like. So they're already interviewing people. So, JJ, this must warm your heart that they're looking to upgrade here.
Well, basically, the way I took it was, for all those people who are expecting Matt Patricia firing announcement of some sort, this is it. This is basically Matt Patricia has been fired as the offensive coordinator and calling the plays, as far as I can tell. And that is great that they at least figured that out. There was rumors that, Belichick, or it wasn't even really rumors. I feel like it was stated that Belichick and Kraft had been meeting for a whole week that they left, or after the season was over. All last week, it sounds like, and they figured this out. They're extending Mayo, which I think is really good and kind of shows some promise for coaching staff in the future, possibly after Belichick, because he was getting head coaching offers apparently. So Carolina reached out to him and he declined, which you generally don't do unless you have insurances. And now I like it. I like that we're looking at offensive coaching, offense guys that know the offensive line. Doug Marrone's been thrown around. He's an offensive line coach. Who knows what's going to happen? It's just getting Matt Patricia out of there, getting this offense going again. I think I've said it before. This defense was great, and if they had any kind of offense, they would have been really, something special, something we talked about. But going 3 and out all the time on offense crushes your defense after a while. And that's all we did.
Yeah. I think that the way they announced it is kind of unprecedented for a Bill Belichick team to use the words offensive coordinator after Bill's been shoving down our throats the last few years that titles are overrated. They came out in the press release and used the term offensive coordinator, and they talked about extending a coach that is getting head coach looks. Gerard Mayo, he's becoming increasingly popular around the league. I think when you look at the defense's performance this year, it's pretty obvious to see why. But it's kind of a break from the norm. It's kind of, and it doesn't feel like it's coming from Belichick. It feels like it's, and I guess Belichick agrees with this, and it wouldn't have come out if he wasn't on board. But it feels like it's a lot from Robert Kraft. Bill O'Brien seems to be the front runner at the moment, and I love that. There's a lot of good candidates available. They have to fulfill the Rooney Rule and at least interview a couple minority candidates. Keenan McCardell and Adrian Clem look to be on that roster. They've also looked in-house with Nick Haley, giving him an interview, which I feel is probably a year overdue. Lots of guys around the league, lots of candidates.
The thing I'll say about Haley, though, it's like he's been the tight end coach, tight ends coaching, right? And like
he might be the most underperforming group over the last
we have the most expensive tight end group, and like out of those two guys, definitely the least production for that kind of money. I mean, Henry is, I don't think you're coaching him really way over his ceiling anyways, but he had a down year. That's a lot. That's on, Patricia too, but he had a down year, and Jonnu Smith, is maybe the most expensive mistake that the Patriots ever signed. Right? I mean, this guy's due. Have you looked at his cap hit yet this year?
It's ugly.
Yeah, it's not good. It's going to make it really hard to move on from
dead
him.
cap hit of $19 million. Is that true?
Yeah. 19 million.
Is that real?
And he's
still got 2 years left on his deal,
and he's still got a couple years, so you cannot get rid of him.
Yeah, his cap hit's sitting at 17 million for this coming season. And if they were to cut him, they would have to pay 19 million on the cap.
Which is
since
just
he's got multiple years.
Incredible that he has that kind of salary. We gave that money to him. Incredible.
That's got to be question one, right? Okay, so you guys have two players who are each the highest paid at the position, or top 5 highest paid at the position, and neither one of them is performing close to what they did prior to coming here. Explain yourself.
Exactly. So I don't know, what he's going to bring to the table, I guess, or why he's, maybe that was a craft thing. Like, give him a shot at it. I'd like someone from the outside coming in. I'd like,
Agreed.
I'd love a Billy O'Brien. I feel like everyone would like him. He's kind of the happy medium everyone's looking for. He knows the system. He's gone on, done his own things. He was at Alabama. He knows Mac Jones. There's a lot of easy things to hook onto there and get going. The offensive line can't be underlooked. Like, they need to figure that out too, because that was a complete disaster. I don't know what we're going to do there. Sounds like we're just going to probably go draft top, 14th pick or something.
Yep.
Which is pretty good. Sounds like we're going to go tackle. I don't know what the board shows. You guys know way more about that than me. But they need to, allow someone to come in and do it. Clem sounds interesting. I don't know much about him. College coach. Seems like he took their quarterback and made him play a lot better than he had the ability to play originally, right?
As an Auburn fan, I can tell you it was pretty heart-wrenching to see Bo Nix play like a top 10 quarterback in the league after he transferred to Oregon. After watching him for 3 years bumble about at Auburn. So Adrian Clem's got to get a good deal of the credit for that. Also, the lack of defensive talent in the Pac-10 has got to, or Pac-12, whatever it is these days.
Exactly.
Has got to get some of that credit. I'm intrigued by Adrian Clem. I'm intrigued by Keenan McCardell. I don't really know.
I'm intrigued by McCardell. Give him a shot.
I don't know his coaching background that well. I've seen him on the sideline for years. I loved him as a receiver for the Jaguars.
Yeah, he was good.
I did like him. He was good.
I loved him.
He's a solid player. With him and Jimmy Smith. Jimmy Smith was a tough cover. That Jacksonville team was loaded. I think he finished up his career in Cleveland. He was a really good receiver, crafty route runner. Seemed to understand schemes, and what he's done at Detroit this year with those receivers. Amon-Ra St. Brown has been awesome. Who's the other guy there? DJ Chark.
I thought it was
He's
Vikings.
been in Minnesota.
It was Minnesota.
McCardell has been in Minnesota, at least for this year.
Oh, okay. I thought for some.
Look at their receiving room. Thielen came out of nowhere. I don't know how much he had to do with that. How long he's been there?
Hard to say. But I agree with
Justin
you.
Jefferson.
They need somebody from outside the building, even if it's a Billy O'Brien who previously was in the building. He's been gone for 10 years. Penn State, Houston, Alabama.
Right.
He's been all over the place. He's in, I think he's in his early 50s, so it's not like, I feel like he's been around forever, but he's still fairly young. He's a local guy. I think he's from Dorchester.
Yeah.
There's got to be some ties there.
Yeah, those things, the Mac Jones connection, the Massachusetts ties, the familiarity with Bill Belichick, they like each other.
It's an easy one.
It's an easy thing
to plug in.
Right. I think that would work really well. There's a couple other sleeper candidates I like. I like Zach Robinson, quarterback coach for the Rams. Comes with that McVay pedigree, that Shanahan style system. I think that's an interesting one.
I remember when we drafted him. Didn't we draft him?
We did.
I think the Patriots drafted. He was Des Bryant's quarterback at Oklahoma State.
We've drafted a lot of smart guys for quarterback that ended up going into coaching. Brian Hoyer could be next in line for something like that.
Cliff Kingsbury's another one.
Cliff Kingsbury, Kevin O'Connell.
And did you hear about him? Did you see what he did?
Well,
he went to Asia or something, right?
Thailand.
He went to Asia. He threw his phone in the ocean, and he's like, I'm done for the year.
I'm done. What do you think he's going to go do in Thailand? That's where he went. I was just like, oh, God, he's going to go spend all kinds of money.
Bangkok.
All kinds of money, isn't? I feel like the dollar goes pretty far in Thailand.
Well, yeah, definitely. Meaning he's coming back with a couple things, probably. I had to guess.
Yeah,
That's all I'll say.
Like some insight and self-knowledge.
Yeah, exactly.
Wisdom,
Awareness.
things like that.
Definitely a lot of self-awareness.
Nothing that needs treatment.
Are there any other sleeper candidates that you guys would say should get a look? I know Adam Gase is kind of an option there.
Gase is probably one of the only guys I don't want to deal with.
Belichick likes him.
He does, but he's just, look at all the quarterbacks he had in the past that were top picks, and he just didn't do much with them.
Just go to YouTube and put in a Adam Gase press conference compilation.
Yeah, it's just terrible.
We don't want to do the eyes, do we? I mean,
bad.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
What? Matt Patricia's no lock to be in the building next year. His contract is up. They'd have to work out a whole new contract for him.
Yeah, that's big.
So Detroit's been paying him, and Nesson's got a report today. It's not really based on anything like concrete, but it's saying that he's no lock to be back here, which is I don't mind.
And is Cam McCord going to get fired for Christ's sake?
Why doesn't? I don't think anyone can
God.
get fired from this coaching staff. Doesn't it feel like that? Like no one gets fired; they just get reassigned.
Mutual walking away.
Around.
It's hideous. Like get rid of the guy.
Do you
Put
think
Joe Judge in
Patricia's
there.
back here though? Does everyone think? I mean, I kind of assumed he's back here.
I assumed he was going to be back here. I feel like...
And as what?
Well, do you remember a couple of years ago, it was almost 10 years ago at this point, that Michael Lombardi, who has a podcast now and worked with Bill in Cleveland initially, went back to Cleveland and was the general manager in like 2012, something like that, during the Johnny Manziel era. Maybe it was a little bit before it. But he gets fired in Cleveland as the GM. Like almost immediately gets brought into New England as like special advisor to the general manager or something like that. It was some weird title where basically it sounded like he was just a sounding board for Belichick. Belichick's like, I don't think they're good at this. And he's like, actually, they're kind of good at it, but they're really bad at this other thing. So I feel like that's Matt Patricia's role.
Right. Well, I mean, his whole goal, it seemed like, though, at the beginning of this year was to be an offensive coach and offensive line. So if it worked out, it would be another step in the right direction of a head coach. Right. Well, that was like kind of what we were being sold on anyways. And it completely blew up in their faces. So now nobody will want to touch this guy. He just destroyed Detroit, which almost made the playoffs. Comes back to New England, runs one of the worst offenses in the league. Clearly shows that he can't do that. So I think you're right. But if he goes into a position like that, I feel like that's like stonewalling his, potential ever getting another coaching job for like a decade. You know what I mean?
I don't want him coaching offensive line or the whole offense or any position group.
Maybe
other
special
than defense.
teams.
Our defensive coaching staff is in good shape.
It is. And you just brought back Mayo, so it's like he's not going to supplant Mayo in any single way.
Yeah.
And even Steven Belichick had a fairly decent year, but it seems like Mayo is being promised, some serious
leadership
duties.
I feel like the hesitancy to not give Steven Belichick or Gerard Mayo the defensive coordinator title the last few years takes Matt Patricia out of the running, and especially with the premium that they've publicly placed on Gerard Mayo now. I don't see where Matt Patricia fits in with that group.
No, I agree.
DeMarcus Covington is our defensive line coach. If you want to keep Steve Belichick as our linebackers coach, maybe as a secondary coach, you could bring him in.
That's Belichick's other son.
Right.
You can shift him around.
I mean, they'd have to shift him around. Belichick doesn't seem to ever want to give the axe to these guys. Another sleeper candidate I want to touch on is Matt Groh, Al Groh's son. We have connections with the Groh family. Our current GM, if you really want to call him that, is forget his first name, but he's a Groh.
He's a Groh, yeah. Where's Matt Groh?
Matt this year has been the wide receivers coach for the Giants, who have just squeezed the shit out of that fruit to get all the juice he could out of that group. Richie James and Hodgins and these guys that are kind of, not premium guys.
Who's the Niners offensive coach?
Kyle Shanahan.
But he doesn't have like a Mike
He's got assistants, yeah.
McDaniels or something.
Oh yeah, I'm sure, but I don't
No,
know.
no
who
big
the-
names.
who his
McDaniels is
next
the
in
biggest
command
name.
is.
Yeah.
It's interesting with this Grove guy, though. I mean, he's been offensive coordinator for the Eagles for 2 years, wide receivers coach for the Colts, passing game coordinator and wide receivers coach with the Rams, wide receivers coach with the Bears. He's been at Alabama. He's been around. This guy's been on the offensive side of the ball for a long time. He's kind of a sleeper candidate. I don't know if they give him a look or not.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah, so some changes.
Definitely
Some
interesting.
the Patriots always staying in the news, even in January when they're not in the playoffs. But really interested to see how these interviews shake out. Really pumped that they were willing to pony up some dough for Gerard Mayo, keep him in town, probably give him some backdoor promises about what his future is going to look like, potentially title changes.
I mean, I'd love for him to slide into head coach.
I love the
Whether he
tweet.
could do it, you know?
Yeah.
I love the tweet too. Just letting you know, like, we're not going to stand for this shit. You know, it was a disaster year. Some of the numbers you look at, you're trying to find, trying to find a morsel of something to hang on to that we can build around. I don't like how many special teamers we're bringing in at the expense of a fullback. It's one position. Like, you have seven,
especially when your special teams lets up all kinds of touchdowns this fucking year, and Cam
just to have
McCord
that
is
flexibility.
in penalties.
Right.
Yeah.
But just to have that flexibility, you get rid of one of those special teamers and you have a fullback, and you can do so many different things with the fullback, and you don't even have to play him. You know, you can play him
would have been
4 times a game.
Awesome with the fullback. Stevenson would have been dominant with the fullback.
With his patience, I don't see why you wouldn't want to have a fullback.
Granny doesn't agree.
No, I don't really. I think Damian Harris functions a lot better with the fullback. I think Ramondre doesn't need one.
Well, anyways, I'd like to see less special teamers, and I'd love to see Cam McCord get reassigned to somewhere else. Put Matt Patricia on special teams. That's
I'd like to see,
special
Cam
teams
McCord,
gets the head coach.
Cam McCord, equipment manager, Gatorade boy.
I was going to say reassign him to the CFL.
I mean, since he's been a part of this, since he's been the special teams coach the last 2 years, I can't remember more special teams screw ups ever. Like, between the penalties, the game changing plays that they've given up or screwed up or whatever. I mean, they had Marcus Jones, but I don't really account any of his talent to Cam McCord. Him returning a kick. Yeah, the blocking's great, but that kid has clearly got another,
And also the fact that it took half the season practically for Marcus Jones to return punts.
You're right.
Give
that too.
Number 25 there. Can we give him a little love for first team All-Pro kick returner?
Thank you for getting one of us.
Returner?
Yeah.
Marcus
getting
Jones
a Patriot
was
on that list. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, Judon didn't make All-Pro, did he?
No. Not first
Really?
team. I don't know if they do second team in the
They usually do.
Tough, man. You got to be like...
Who like was Micah Parsons and Nick Bosa.
Yeah.
That's a
Judon was up there. If we were a playoff team, if we had a couple more wins, I bet he would have got the nod.
If the season ended in November, he would have.
Yeah.
Snap-wise, he faded a little bit, I think, but towards the end of the season. But his numbers were still good. His production was still good. Much better than last year, where he really, like, the last, 6 games was like, where the fuck is he
fell off?
Yeah.
Well, how about us? So I mentioned it's January. We just wrapped up Wild Card Weekend, looking ahead to the divisional round, and we just did 20 minutes on the Patriots. Pretty good.
Yep.
Pretty good. So
it's exciting time.
Exciting time. Yeah. Looking back at Wild Card Weekend, so we have 6 games now on Wild Card Weekend. Some of them we expected to be blowouts, and they showed up that way. Seahawks get trounced by the Niners, mostly in the second half pull away. The Dolphins hung in there with the Bills. I expected that to be a runaway. Same thing, Ravens and Bengals. Ravens hung in there most of the time. But you got to start talking about the Chargers blowing it in the second half to the Jaguars.
I don't understand how that happened.
27-7 at halftime. 27-0, 4 minutes before halftime. And then they just fall apart in the second half. Insane. Brandon Staley is coming back, they said. He's coming back. Didn't lose his job over this.
Yeah. Didn't lose his
They
job.
fired all the offensive staff, like a bunch of offensive staff, too, over him. It's like, once again, Staley somehow, weeds his way
ownership
through
went
that.
to him and they go, what the fuck happened? And he goes, fire the whole offensive side of the staff.
Crazy.
Right.
That's what I think probably happened.
The guys I brought in probably, too. Or he brought in. You know what I mean?
Joe Lombardi and company. Yeah, I think so. I think he
It's like, you guys are idiots.
It's good. Joe Lombardi was awful, so I'm very happy to know that Justin Herbert will have some fresh blood calling the plays for that team.
It's scapegoating, though. It is.
Yes,
'cause that offense is fine. There's nothing really wrong with that offense.
They scored 30 points. He's a defensive guy. He let up 31.
But they scored 30 points with a +5 turnover differential.
I know, which is even
Lawrence threw
sadder.
4 picks. I think almost all of them were in the first half, right? I mean,
yeah.
And then he threw 4 touchdowns in the second. It's like, what happened? And why? I completely blame Staley. You could have bet on this from day one that he was going to do something like this. If you told me, what are the odds of him blowing a 30-point lead in the playoffs? I'd be like, I'd take that bet.
Well, 30 points
that's a
is
good
crazy. I mean, I don't think I would take anything with 30 points. I mean, we've seen this a couple times this year, right? With these outrageous comebacks, the Vikings against the Colts.
Yeah, we have.
I'm pretty sure there was another one. I that's just not coming to my head, but
Tale of two halves.
Yeah, it's crazy, and it's almost like the refs.
Patriots Vikings almost was one.
Refs seem to be a little bit complicit in this too. Like, there's something going on there. It doesn't smell too good to me.
There's a lot of ref talk right now. A lot of ref talk the last couple weeks. How bad they've been, and it's been like I feel like the season has started off where they weren't calling a lot. They were calling very specific things, and they weren't calling a lot. And it always, like, when they do that, that's great, but it morphs into this thing where it seems one-sided because they start calling things for one team or the other. That Minnesota game, it seems like they're trying to get Minnesota back in it. Minnesota just crapped all over themselves again, which is another hilarious thing.
Another thing that really drives me nuts about this is it was Staley's decision to play Mike Williams in Week 18 and all the starters in Week 18. And now you're in the third quarter. You telling me they couldn't have used Mike Williams in the third and fourth quarter to get a couple first downs, ice this fucking game? Like, they played Eckler the whole game in Week 18. I think maybe he sat the fourth quarter. Maybe. Your guys are fatigued. Like, get some practice squad guys in there. Do what you got to do.
Let them rest.
They had clinched the playoffs. Like, you're playing for seeding against Jacksonville? Like, I don't know.
Idiotic.
I don't know, man.
Yeah. They're basically, on paper, they were, if not
fourth.
number one, top 3 most talented team on paper. Like, they have so much freaking talent. I know they had injuries on offense and stuff, but come on.
Yeah,
they're not deep.
It's like,
that's the problem with the Chargers is they have really good positional players. They have, like, the best of the best at, like, safety and Khalil Mack and Bosa. You're talking about 3 premium players. Asante Samuel Jr. is no joke as a corner. You even look at their receivers. They have, Williams and Allen. After that, it's like we hope Palmer can do something. And the running backs, it's Eckler, and then there's a big drop off after Eckler. It's just not deep. It's not a deep team,
Yeah.
So to play these guys in these positions in Week 18 when you've already clinched, I can't believe Brandon Staley should be on the street right now. He should be on the street.
Yeah, so I was just thinking about it, and so after that game and at least into the next day, everybody online was buzzing like, how is Brandon Staley not going to get fired? Like, on the bus ride home after this. And then everybody immediately then went, okay, so Sean Payton is looking for a job. This is a great job. It's a talented team with a quarterback. And then, do you think that the Chargers ownership, the Spanos family, is notoriously a little bit stingy? I mean, they rent a stadium. They don't own a stadium. So, so I was wondering, do you think they put 2 and 2 together and they were like, okay, Sean Payton's going to be maybe the most expensive coach ever. So if we fire Brandon Staley, we got to continue paying him his contract and then take on the biggest new contract.
That's definitely something.
Not only that,
but
short-sighted. Sean Payton's still under contract, isn't he? Don't you have to give something up to get him?
Yeah, there's no first round pick.
Probably. He was looking old, dude. He was on one of the pre-games, and I was like, whoa. He's looking a little...
He's never been a camera-friendly kind of guy.
Sure. It looks like E.T. a little bit.
Is he 60? He's not 60.
I think he's in his 50s.
Yeah.
If I'm a team like the Texans, and I have 2 first-round picks, and one of them super high, that's something I wouldn't mind doing, trying to get Sean Payton in. If I'm a team like the Chargers that has 1 pick, and they have this Brandon Staley, I don't think I would do it, you know?
Yeah. Sean Payton's 59, for the record.
59, so right there.
Okay. Other games. Dolphins and Bills. The Dolphins were starting Skylar Thompson at quarterback.
Yep.
3rd string, if that. And they took him down to the wire. They took him all the way to the end of this game. What is going on with the Bills? I mean, they can't stop the run. They're letting people get wide open. Jalen Waddle dropped 2 passes that were both 40 yards. That probably cost them 6 points minimum. I mean, the Bills should have lost this game potentially.
Oh yeah, they should have lost the last couple of games. Even though the game against the Patriots, I didn't get to talk about much. I mean, I feel like they could have and should have lost that if it wasn't for the 2 kick return touchdowns, which should have led to immediate firing of Cam McCord. But not to get back to that. Yeah, man, it's like they're out of juice in their offense too. I've noticed that, they're very big play, which is great, but when they need to kind of kill clock and go for a long drive, like they don't have that in them, it seems like, outside of Josh Allen running it, which doesn't seem like the best option week,
in the
week
playoffs it is, though.
It is
it's
the
do or
playoffs.
die
No, you're
time.
right. It's do or die, for
sure. Doesn't
sure.
need to be healthy for next week if there is no next week.
I can't remember the last time, and I think this is one of the downsides of having this playoff format is you only get one team that gets the bye week. The Bills were 14-3 or something like that in regular
13
season.
13-3.
13-3
because they were game short. Yeah,
right. That's a team that should probably have a bye week. One of those, either Cincinnati or them, should have had a bye week. I don't like how many teams make the playoffs now. Their offensive line looked fatigued. I can't remember the last time I saw Josh Allen actually get sacked. I've seen him under pressure a lot, but he usually is able to escape and do some things. 7 sacks for Josh Allen.
Yeah, they were getting after him.
That's crazy, man. You got to tip your hat to the Dolphins, man. They played their asses off, and the whole game, I'm like, Buffalo's letting them hang in. Buffalo, I think for a while there, Miami had the lead in like the 3rd quarter.
They did. I couldn't believe it. It was a strip. They stripped Josh Allen. He dropped the ball. Was it a strip or a pick? I think it was a strip, and they picked it up and ran for a touchdown and got the lead. I was like, you got to be shitting me. And it was at the 20.
Yeah, and then the Dolphins were driving. They were driving at the end of the game. They were in midfield, and they ended up taking that delay of game on 4th and 1, and then not able to convert. Yeah. But they were driving and could have at least pushed it into overtime. Then who knows?
I don't even know. Is there a target record? There's got to be a target record in the NFL. Tyreek Hill gets targeted 10, 15 times a game, no matter who the quarterback is. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. I can guarantee you it's got to be Brandon Marshall.
Oh, with that year with the Broncos.
With the Broncos, I think he had like 21 catches in one game. And if you were watching that game, it was every fucking play. They didn't hand off. They didn't look at anyone else. It was every play they were throwing to him. Yeah,
he was a good player, man.
I'd be interested to see that stat. Okay, another game, very similar. Ravens and Bengals. Ravens playing with their backup, Tyler Huntley, who was a game-time decision, ends up being able to go. Ravens have a slight lead going into halftime, and then are right there with them. In the 3rd quarter, they're going to extend a lead, or at least I think they were going to take a lead with like a 3rd and 1 from the 2-yard line, or a 4th and 1 from the 2 yard, something that.
Yes.
Tyler Huntley fumbles, goes back 98 yards for a touchdown, and he
doesn't just fumble. It's a QB sneak over the top, and someone slaps the ball out, and Sam Hubbard runs it back.
Is that what happened?
Oh, yeah. He tried to go over the top. Someone slapped the ball out. Sam Hubbard picks it up and runs 98 yards back the other way. It was 17-17, dude. It was 17-17.
How much time was left?
11
it was in the
minutes.
4th quarter.
Yeah. There was plenty of time left.
Wow.
But that's
plenty of time left. Neither offense had anything going in the 4th quarter after that drive. It was just demoralizing.
Won the game.
Right.
It's a 14-point swing on that.
About it.
Note to every quarterback, don't go over the top unless you're on the 1-yard line. That's it.
If you're going to go over the top, you squeeze the fucking shit out of that ball. Like, it'll never come out.
Think about how long 2 yards is. That's 6 feet. You need to be horizontal to be able to do that. Like,
that's not a smart call, it sounds like.
That was a fine call. You're going over the top. It's a QB
not
sneak.
From the
you hold on to the ball.
From the 2, though. It sounds like it's from the 2. You had some space.
From the 2.
Yeah, he almost had it. He was really close. Like he
was
really close.
Doesn't count.
Close doesn't count when you fumble and lose the game.
It's what is it? 3rd and 1? 3rd and 2?
Went underneath.
You have another chance
special.
I didn't hate the play call. I hated the execution, man.
So
whatever you want, it was they fucked up.
All right.
Going into the AFC playoff slate, we were probably thought Kansas City, Buffalo, and the Bengals were far and away the 3 best teams. All 3 have advanced. Chiefs got the bye week. We already talked about that. Bengals and the Bills, both extremely underwhelming in the wild card. And now they get to face each other in the divisional round.
Again, rematch.
The storylines on this are incredible.
Yep.
But if you're buying one team, who you taking in that matchup next week? It's in Buffalo, by the way. It's in Buffalo.
I feel like Cincinnati is playing better, even though they didn't play great in that playoff game. They've really been, they've been chugging along pretty well. And, the canceled game against Buffalo, they didn't really play. That gives them some resting time, where Buffalo was kind of in an emotional wreck type of place for that whole week. It wasn't really a great week of rest for them, I'm sure. And Buffalo just looks like they're looking for ways to throw it sometimes. It's like they're making stupid mistakes. That Cincinnati, I feel like, isn't making as big of mistakes. It's in Buffalo. Buffalo always finds a way to screw it up, though. But then Cincinnati, they're the Super Bowl losers. They got a lot of fatigue as well. It's going to be a great game. I'm very excited for it. Like you said, a lot of storylines, tons of emotion from Buffalo, I'm sure. I'm going with Cincinnati. If I don't know what the spread is,
it's 5.5. Buffalo's favored by 5.5.
I'd take the spread anyways. I'd probably take the spread.
Yeah,
I think it'll be close.
My brain tells me the Bengals for the exact reasons that you said. I think they're playing better, and in clutch moments, I trust Joe Burrow more than I trust Josh Allen.
And they're healthy. Their offense versus Buffalo's defense right now. Right, they can run. Cincinnati can run the ball well. They're Jamar Chase is back and chugging along, and Buffalo's been giving up some plays.
I think Cincinnati's left tackle Jonah Williams dislocated his kneecap.
Oh,
that's got to be a tough one to play with.
He's playing with it.
Well, no, he didn't finish the game. But
I think that
I don't know if you could bounce back from that. So they might be down.
Dislocated kneecap.
Yeah, it might be a backup left tackle. So they're not. No one's fully healthy at this point.
Absolutely.
I think they might have lost a cornerback as well. So it's muddies the picture a little bit. But yeah, my brain says that. My heart says this game is in Buffalo. They had one of the most traumatic events we've seen in years on a football field. Apparently, Damar Hamlin has been at the facility almost every day. I mean, the amount of emotion in that building, the amount of decades and decades of tears that have pooled up and rained down on that city.
This was their year.
My heart says the Bills.
Buffalo's going to lose this game. Buffalo's going to lose, and they deserve to lose. And, dude, Cincinnati, if I was Cincinnati, I'd be so fucking pissed that this game's in Buffalo. This is where it should have been at a neutral site. This one should have been on a neutral site because Cincinnati got fucked in this whole situation with DeMar Hamlin. This to me is why if I'm Zach Taylor next time around, or if I'm an opposing head coach next time around, I feel really bad about the player that got that's having cardiac arrest. But if we win this game, we're not in Buffalo. So why do I have to be a nice guy when I'm just going to get fucked like this? This is the situation where it should have been, let's move it to a neutral field.
Yeah, you're right. I agree. I didn't think about
the
that.
Bills, to me, look like they're emotionally and mentally fatigued.
Yeah.
Cincinnati, they had a tough game against Baltimore, but that's a team that knows them as good as any team in the NFL. I'm looking at the way Buffalo's been playing the last 2 weeks. The Patriots almost beat them. The Dolphins almost beat them. And those are divisional games too. But I just feel like I have a big chip on my shoulder if I'm playing for the Bengals right now, and that's where I'm coming from with this one. And I don't care if it's in Buffalo. I know it's a tough place to play, but I don't know.
Cincinnati's cold enough. It's not a big home field advantage. It's not, even Miami did good.
The weather. The weather's not the issue. The crowd is.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Wow, it's gonna be pretty epic. That game is gonna be Sunday, the early afternoon slot, which I think is still like 3 o'clock Eastern. So they are flexing them a bit.
CBS.
Are we done with the Saturday games?
We are. No, we got 2 more Saturday games. The next of which I want to talk about, and then we'll circle back to the NFC after this. But Jaguars going to Kansas City Saturday afternoon. Kansas City coming off the bye. Jacksonville is coming off that victory on Saturday night, so they have a full week's rest going into this game. Gotta be coming in with that kind of F it attitude where it's like,
nothing to lose.
Nobody expects us to be within 2 scores of this team. So even though the spread's listed at 8.5. So they just got to come in guns blazing. I would expect a lot of interceptions. I might expect some fireworks on the outside.
Trick plays, throw the kitchen sink at them.
Doug Peterson draws up some really fun plays. That T formation to convert the 4th and 1 at the end of the game, that was fucking sick.
They have nice
weapons. I haven't seen a T formation since Pop Warner. That was incredible.
They lost to the Chiefs. They've played them too. It's not like they don't know the Chiefs.
27-17. I'm looking at the game right now.
Week 10. And then after that, I think the Jaguars were like 3-7 at that point, and they've really turned it around since then.
They were 3-7. Kansas City was 7-2. Interesting little caveat here. Kansas City only scored 7 of their 27 in the second half, so they were shut out of the fourth quarter. And Jacksonville kind of started putting things together in the second half. They only scored 10, but maybe that was. Like you said, they kind of changed how they've been doing things. They're definitely playing with a lot more on the line, it seems like. They've turned their season around since then. So they were not a playoff team at the time. They were playing hard at the time, but they weren't a playoff team. And, they've made the playoffs. They beat the frickin', they just won that game, which was a complete joke.
Their Jaguars are hot.
So Jaguars are hot, man. And that's who you want to play against Kansas City is the hot team.
Yeah. 6 straight wins for the Jags. They won 7 of their last 8. 8 of their last 10.
I can't see them winning the Super Bowl, but I can see them take down Kansas City. I can see it.
Look at you.
I'm going with it. I mean, that's just the team that they probably didn't want. I don't know. I mean, they didn't want to play Buffalo, obviously, but Jaguars are such a wild card, dude.
I think it's a fun game, and I think the Jaguars will put up a fight. Kansas City and none of those guys on that team for Jacksonville have playoff experience. Arrowhead is just a different
tough place to play.
It's just a different place to play, man. That crowd, no one gets up for games like Kansas City, man. They love their football. That's when you played Mahomes in the playoffs. That's a tough matchup. I got to go Kansas City, but I think it's going to be a fun game. I think it's going to be tighter than maybe Jacksonville's getting credit for. I don't know. What's the line on that? Do you know?
It's 8.5 for the Chiefs.
8.5. Okay.
Yeah. Kind of weird lines. But I'm intrigued. I don't think the Jaguars are going to win this game. I think the Chiefs will, basically because I don't think the Jaguars can score enough to keep up with the Chiefs. I think if the Chiefs really need points, they get points, and then you just need to be able to bounce to meet serve with them. I don't think they have the talent on the outside. The Jaguars don't, to be able to put up the number of points they would need to. Yeah, against the Chiefs, it's an issue, but I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be fun. I love those fuck it games when it's just like, yeah, I'm swinging for the fences.
Yeah, they have nothing to lose.
Yeah,
that's what I like about it. Like this is a team that could go for 2, maybe try some onside kicks, maybe try some trick plays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the other thing I was going to say about Jacksonville is that you said they don't have any experience. Their players don't have a lot of playoff experience, but Peterson's won a Super Bowl.
Right.
And he knows what needs to be done there. Their defense is sneaky good. They've put up pretty good defensive performances for during their little win streak here. And if they just figure the frick out to cover Travis Kelce and make sure that he is doubled the entire game, I don't know if that's a possibility with a tight end, but just take him out of the game. If they can do that, I think they have a chance. Because they have
a lot of good players at the second level that could keep up and do some things. Luakon, I think he led the league in tackles this year.
He's done it for multiple years in a row now.
Yeah, Andre Sisco. They got some players on that the second level, third level that can help out for sure. They have a lot of good talent on that team, and their coach has experience, but it's different when you're in there playing and you're listening to that crowd. The coach can only tell you so much. And
no, of course.
I think Peterson counts for something, but at the same time,
not much, but a little bit.
Yeah. Trevor Lawrence has some plenty of experience on big stages in college football as well.
That's true. Big time. Yeah. Like championship games. Yeah.
I would just love to see someone take down. Kansas City's the one I want taken down this year.
Buffalo would be nice, but I fucking hate the Bills. I mean, all right.
You're heartless, sir. Heartless. Okay,
why do I have to root for them because their guy? I feel bad for the kid. Why do I have to root for the Bills? I see Patriots fans coming out like, woohoo, let's go Bills. I'm like,
yeah, I'm not doing that. Fuck
I found
that.
a sensitive spot. Ooh.
I'll root against the Bills no matter pretty much. I mean, I picked the Bengals, so I'm going to root against the Bills. But if it was Bills Chiefs, what if it's Bills Chiefs? Who are you going to root for?
Ooh,
Chiefs.
Bills.
I'm going Chiefs. I don't want anyone in this division.
I'd rather the Bills. I'd rather the Bills won over the Chiefs. I don't want Mahomes to have too many back-to-back. It's not back-to-back, but too many.
You think that's
too many rings this early.
That's what he's worried about.
I don't want anyone near that.
That's exactly what he's worried about.
I don't want anyone having any kind of case.
Okay.
Let me tell you something.
Should we talk about Brady?
Yeah. Or do you want to talk about Minnesota? We didn't really talk about Minnesota.
Well, so that one's boring. Let's do it in 2 seconds. Minnesota, we're frauds.
Frauds.
We knew it.
Daniel Jones. Well, there's a little Patriots thread here because that team on the Giants is essentially the same team, and we've said this throughout the season. I mean, how bad does this make Joe Judge look?
Horrific.
They're essentially the same team, but they're not. Saquon Barkley has been way healthier this year than he was the previous season.
There's definitely some differences, of course, but it's not like they brought in anyone huge. They didn't make any massive changes there compared to when Judge leaving and their new coach is the biggest change they had.
Yeah,
I agree.
Well, Andrew Thomas at left tackle is playing. He looked like a bust when he first came out from Georgia, and now he's playing. I think he's the Pro Bowler. He might even have been on the All-Pro team. Andrew Thomas at left tackle. And they drafted Evan Neal, who was new this year at right tackle. So they really shored up both sides.
Their tackles are
Saquon. Do you see the first quarter of that game? Saquon Barkley is the most explosive athlete on the planet, it looks like, when he's out there. It's insane.
He's one of the best athletes in the world, man. It's just he's a freak. He's a freak, man. And games on the line, I love that guy. He's going to be a free agent. I don't know what they're going to do. They don't have a lot of dynamic players. I think Richie James is pretty dynamic, but Danny Jones,
Dimes.
man. Danny Dimes, man. He is I mean, he is fun to watch, dude. When he gets moving outside the pocket, he's fast as hell, dude.
He was their leading rusher in this game. 17 carries for 78 yards.
I love it. That guy's playing. Remember, all Giants fans would talk about for years, last few years, is how much he sucked. Like, that guy doesn't suck. I'm sorry. And now they're committed to him.
Because it was their coaches. It was Joe Judge who sucked.
He plays good in big games, too. He's a legitimate NFL quarterback.
Jason Garrett was their offensive coordinator. I mean, how could you hire Jason Garrett after what you saw transpire in Dallas?
Yeah.
Joe Judge did that.
Joe Judge did that, and then we hired him to run our quarterback, and miraculously our quarterback's bad now, and everyone's like, oh, our quarterback's bad. Maybe it's not the quarterback. Maybe it's Joe Judge and Matt Patricia, finally.
I think it's an indictment on Judge more than it is.
Do you think Judge is out at quarterback coach? Do you think if a new guy comes in, he brings a quarterback coach?
Has to be. I would like a new offensive line coach. I think that's critical. Our offensive line went in the tank this year.
That coaching,
critical to have a high caliber offensive line coach.
Dayball is a really good coach. I mean, when your leading receiver on the year has 46 catches for 724 yards and 2 touchdowns, that's your leading receiver.
You've done something right.
You've done something right, and
you're at the playoffs.
You're in the divisional round of the playoffs with a chance, and you're playing a divisional opponent here, the Eagles, who have not been quite as good as they were early in the season. Definitely, I think the most complete team, offense and defense wise.
That's going to be a fun one, man. I got to say. New York versus Philadelphia.
Well, these two teams played each other in Week 18 in a game that Philadelphia needed to win to ensure they got the division. And the Giants had diddly poo to play for. And they didn't play Danny Dimes. They didn't play Saquon. They didn't play They didn't play like anybody. They did the opposite of what Brandon Staley did and took your blue chippers and sat them right on the bench.
Right.
And the Giants took them all the way into the fourth quarter with nobody's on the field. And this was the Eagles in the game trying to win. And afterwards, they come out and they go, Jalen Hurts is, I think they said, he hurts. They were like, it was a terrible headline. It's like, Hurts is
stupid.
I hate that stuff.
Yeah. But also, I mean, they did take him to the wire that game, but on December 11th,
first matchup,
Eagles kicked the shit out of him 48-22. So,
yeah. So who's going to show up?
You're right.
That was before Jalen Hurts had his injury. When they kicked the crap out of him.
Generally when there was always, two teams, I wonder how the train continues with one team buys. Like, does someone screw it up? Philly feels like the team that would screw up their buy. Like, they get the buy, they're all relaxed, they think they're great, and then they come out and they got their ass kicked. Like, I feel like Baltimore, the 14-2 Baltimore Ravens, what was that, 2 years ago? And they came out, they thought they were having a blast, they thought they were great, and then they got absolutely mauled in the playoffs. It seems like the Eagles are very talented, so I'd be surprised if it happened. But they do seem like they have a little bit of that potential in them.
Yeah.
The way they've been finishing here.
Eagles are favored by 7.5 at home. Oof. This is a Saturday night game. Don't know if there's going to be weather.
I mean, I don't want the Giants to win. I have friends that are Giants fans, and I don't want to hear it. So I'd rather them lose.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, though. I mean, I think the Eagles have the number one pass defense in the NFL. Maybe you can run on them a little bit. I think they're 12th. They're 12th in the NFL in rush defense. This is going to be Saquon's game, I think. If the Giants are going to win this game, it's got to be on Saquon. I mean, the Eagles are really good on offense. So
I'm curious to see Wink Martindale, defensive coordinator for the Giants.
Wink. Good old Wink.
I don't think he's always been super blitz happy. I think he's been more broad in his defensive approach previously. But for this team this season, he is a blitz maniac. He goes after quarterbacks. I'm really interested to see how Jalen Hurts handles that level of pressure. How quick can he diagnose? How fast can he get the ball out to the right players? If you're going to blitz and you're going to leave A.J. Brown one-on-one and he runs a slant route, that might go for 80 yards. So I'm really interested to see if Jalen Hurts is able to capitalize on that.
Almost all the Giants' defensive players are practicing, too. I think that's big. I saw Kayvon Thibodeau get hurt a little bit late in that game last week, and Apparently he's practicing. He's fine. That would have been a big loss. I think they might have dodged a bullet there. He's been pretty good. Not just against the pass. I think he's only got a few sacks in the season, but he's been pretty good against the run. He gets a lot of pressure. I like that kid.
Yeah, he's good. So that's the Saturday night game. Now backing up to the last wild card game we haven't touched on. Tom Brady makes the playoffs again, gets absolutely blown off the field by the Cowboys on Monday night in a game that was never close.
No.
Brett Maher, the Cowboys kicker, did his best. I mean, I don't know what kind of bet he had on the line. He's like, whatever I can do, fellas, I'm going to shave points on this one.
That was bad.
But the Buccaneers, God, it was just, I mean, their entire offense consists of, okay, run a slant route. Now run a 5-yard in. Now run a 7-yard in. Now do a curl for the running back. I mean, everything is in between the numbers, less than 10 yards down the field.
Yeah, it seemed like Brady was just really – well, first of all, this was the first game I could actually sit down and watch. I was very excited. And it was probably the worst game of the weekend.
Easily.
Seahawks game was kind of a blowout, but even that was more entertaining from what I've heard.
It was tied at half.
It was tied at half, exactly. Seems like Brady doesn't want to get pressure. He's getting pressure. It's the NFL. You're facing Micah Parsons and that defense. And he – Brady always was known for standing in there, taking the hits, moving around in the pocket, extending the time he needed, fast release on the money. I don't know if his age is catching up to him. I don't know if life is catching up with him. They scored 2 touchdowns late when it was pretty much a blowout. You thought there was a chance at a comeback, and it quickly dwindled. It was unfortunate to see. He just doesn't look comfortable or like he wanted to be there. I mean, I feel like there had to be things there, but he didn't really want to get hit a lot. Almost like he knew this, a little bit of the vibes from 2019 when we were playing Tennessee in the playoffs, just couldn't do anything, didn't seem focused, like he wanted to be there, I guess. But even this was way worse than that game.
Yeah, he was unsettled the entire time. Never comfortable. Never felt like he was protected. They had Tristan Wirfs back in this game. They had Donovan Smith at left tackle. Even, what's his face? The redhead Ryan Jensen. There's the hothead center. No offense to redheads. Was there Shaq Mason? So he had most of his offensive line. And the Cowboys are hard. They're hard to block up. But, yeah, he looked uncomfortable the entire time. It was just kind of miserable to watch him try to maintain under that type of pressure. So he goes to the press conference after the game, says, thank you, Tampa Bay reporters, fans, organization, love this, yada, yada, yada. Thanks for accepting me. I'm really grateful, which sounds a little bit like, see you later.
I mean, yeah, it definitely, I don't know what's going to happen. I feel like, this whole thing with Brady's been calling the offense, right? It's almost like he calls the offense. We hear that. I don't know how much of that actually happens if he's the one calling the offense the whole time or if someone, Leftwich is feeding him plays and then he's making decisions based on that. I don't know how it's going, but it almost seemed like he's been calling the offense, dealing with that, and it was like he was fatigued. Like he didn't even know what to call. They weren't drumming anything up that was anything exciting or getting anything going. He was just kind of going through the motions, and it seemed like the play calling also was just going through the motions, which makes me wonder if Brady has that much control on the offense that he's the one that's supposed to be calling these things, and he's like, fuck it, running out, run an in cut. All right, I'm gonna just throw to the running back on this play, just you know what I mean? It was very uninventive or no passion. There's a lot of and it'll I feel like we don't see any trick plays. Like trick plays is always something that you can kind of, when things aren't going, you can kind of get something, maybe get a big chunk of 40, 50 yards. And there was nothing. They didn't try anything. And it was too bad. Yeah. I was excited for it. So
yeah, I'm looking at Tom Brady right now. He looks emotionally and mentally fatigued. He's had a rough season. Not up to his standard. It's tough.
It's got to be the worst season of his career, easily.
So.
7-8 or 7, 9, 8 and 9.
I was hoping he'd get up for this game. He did not. Watching the game, and Byron Leftwich got fired, I think, after the game, their offensive coordinator. It's a mess. It's a mess over there. I think Tom Brady can't wait to get the hell out of there. He might retire. I hear a lot of people talking about Brady next year.
He should. I don't know what he's doing.
I don't know how much left
and everyone's
he has
like,
in the
"Oh, we
tank."
don't want him to end like this." It's like the guy's got 7 Super Bowls. Like he can't end on a Super Bowl.
I'm watching him. The throws aren't there, man. I don't know what's going on. I mean, he's old. He's old, dude. I mean, he really is. So unless he goes to a juggernaut team like San Francisco or something, I don't see why he would want to come back and try to rebuild with like a Las Vegas or someone
Oakland,
like that.
Oakland. Las Vegas.
If I were him, I'd go to a stacked situation, or I wouldn't go anywhere at all.
So that's San Fran or bust.
Or Saints. Saints are pretty stacked, man.
And it's not the same. Like San Francisco,
I wouldn't think you'd want to go to New Orleans.
San Francisco's roster is head and shoulders above the Saints. I just don't know what situation.
But even San Fran, dude, does Shanahan want to deal with Brady? Does Shanahan want to come in and let Brady take over his entire offense? Because that's what you're,
You think Brady can't run that system? Brady can run that system in his sleep. It's not a mental thing.
I don't know if he'll get. I think it's the control is what I'm getting at. Like Brady wants a certain amount of control when he walks in the building, and Shanahan wants that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but when you're dealing with someone like Brady, I think you kind of put your ego to the side. You're talking about a guy that's single-handedly. He's got more wins in the playoffs than every franchise in the NFL.
Outside of one or
except for
two,
the Patriots. Like, that's insane.
He's got as many, and he did up until the Cowboys beat him. So the Cowboys and Patriots both have 36 playoff wins now.
All right, still
Brady has 35.
Brady has 35 playoff wins, dude. It's
insane.
And one thing that they don't take into account are the bye weeks. How many bye weeks did he get over the course of his career?
Right, that's true. Yeah.
Those count as playoff wins.
Yeah,
those are playoff games that he won in advance.
That don't exist anymore. Right, that don't exist anymore. Unless if you're the number 2 seed and you get the bye now, then that's where that would come into play. If you're the number 1 seed, then you'd still get the bye. But he doesn't.
One thing's for certain is he's leaving Tampa in a smoldering, burning rubble. They are going to be terrible.
They got a championship 2 years ago. I mean, wouldn't you take that deal? If you had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Sure. No, of course. Yeah, but he's going to leave them in a train wreck. Like, they are going to be bad.
Yeah, it's like what LeBron does to franchises.
I've heard 2 rumors, and they're probably bullshit. Then one of them is the Jets. I can't see it.
I can't see that.
I would fucking vomit every time I saw him in a Jets jersey. The other one's the Dolphins, which I could kind of see because his family's in Miami.
But now, are they going to want him? I mean, unless Tua has some serious issues.
He does have serious issues. They're saying he doesn't. He has serious concussion issues.
He does, right. But is he going to keep playing? Probably. And I don't think Miami's going to move on from him at this point. I'd be surprised.
Tom Brady's there. They're not playing Tua. I'm sorry. They're not. So
you think they're going to do that, though? I feel like that's a pretty...
I don't think it's beyond Miami to do something like that. I think that's a very Miami thing to do. He is
buddies with somebody there.
Yeah, it's a short list of teams that would possibly fit, and Vegas, I just don't think they're good enough. I don't think you want to go in the AFC. Is basically that's the line I would draw if I was Tom Brady. You look at the AFC quarterbacks, and you're like, God damn, it's a freaking gauntlet to go through the AFC. Whereas the NFC, we're talking about Danny Dimes being one of the premier quarterbacks in the NFC.
Don't take anything away from the kid. He's kind of earned it. You know what I mean? He's been through the fucking gauntlet of just people shitting on him.
I mean, Brock Purdy.
I hear what you're saying.
Brock Purdy.
I'm sorry, you're sitting, buddy. Game. If Tommy's you're sitting. You know,
that's an easy play too.
Brock Purdy.
Yeah. I don't know if you could trade Trey Lance, but that's an off-season question. Brady's going to let it play out for a couple weeks until some shit gets leaked, and then he's forced into making an announcement like last year.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy G's gone from that team, though, right? You think?
Guaranteed.
Probably.
Guaranteed. Yeah, Jimmy G's not better than the way Brock Purdy's playing right now. Although I will say, I was not that impressed with Purdy against Seattle. Seattle's defense is garbage. It's garbage.
Yeah, he didn't look that great. I mean, he threw 3 touchdowns, but...
or 2 touchdowns. The stats don't show it. You had to see it on the field where he just wasn't accurate. I mean, he was missing by a yard in every single direction. It wasn't consistent.
Talking
First
about Purdy
playoff
right
game,
now.
I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. First playoff game, but it's going to be something next week. I cannot wait. I just love these two jerseys being on the field. Reminds me
Yes.
of the mid '90s.
I'm so glad you said that.
Niners.
Doesn't
exciting.
it bring you back to like the Merton Hanks, Deion Sanders? Oh my God, so many good players. Charles Haley.
I can't believe you led with Merton Hanks.
I know, me
I
neither.
fucking
Of
love
all the
Merton Hanks,
people
dude.
in that team, you led with.
You know what? Martin Hanks had the
Hanks?
longest neck I've ever seen, and he used to
and
celebrate.
He used
And
it
he'd
too.
do this. Yeah, he'd do that, dude. He had like this neck that was like this long, right?
Yeah, he looked like a swan trying to baby bird it. It was like-
That he was like the neck was like that long. Dude, he had the
That's
best
a
celebrations.
Merton
I love
Hanks,
those
I was
teams.
like, wait,
God,
what?
Ricky Waters.
JJ
I had
Stokes,
a big
Terrell
crush on.
Owens, Jerry Rice.
Larry
Oh my
Allen.
God. I mean, those were the NFC games that I loved to watch. Was the Cowboys and Niners growing up in the NFC Championship games. Those were the fun games, and I would always root for the Niners in those games because I just, you remember how many Cowboys fans there used to be back then that were like local to
yeah.
Massachusetts, and you'd be
Still
like,
are.
Oh, yeah.
Still
You guys
are.
are
They're Cowboys
scumbags.
fans nationally. Yeah. It's kinda brutal.
scumbags, dude. Like you're from Massachusetts and you're rooting for the Dallas
For the
Cowboys.
Cowboys. Yeah, right?
I hate it, and I would always root for the Niners. And
Same.
they get the best of a
Same.
few times. Steve Young was great too. A lefty
Steve Young
quarterback.
is terrific.
Yeah.
Emmett Smith. Larry
no, that-
Allen. You get some Larry Allen
I
stories.
said
out of
Larry
John
Allen.
Madden.
Larry Allen is. You should lead with him.
Yeah,
He
right.
was
Some of
dominant.
the Dana Stubblefield, some of those players.
Bryant Young.
back
Bryant
then.
Young's in the Hall of Fame now.
Brian Young, man, they had some
Even
good
the
players on
fullbacks.
both those teams.
Daryl
Remember that
Johnston.
Cowboys?
Daryl Johnson was a beast.
The Cowboys' offensive line, man, with some of those fucking guys. Who was the other one?
Nate
Newton.
Newton. Yeah.
Oh, I'll never forget Nate Newton running the ball back on a pick from the Bills in the Super Bowl. And was it Steve Tasker?
It was.
Or was it Don Beebe?
Don Beebe. Yeah, it was Don
Smacking the ball out. One of the
Yeah.
best plays that I've ever seen. It was like a Ben Watson chasing down Champ Bailey kind of play.
It was exactly that.
Yeah.
In a Super Bowl. So, with all that backstory from 30 years ago, the Cowboys are going into San Francisco. I can't wait to see the jerseys. I don't know who's going to wear white, but I wish
That's
both.
probably the most exciting game of the
I wish it
weekend.
would be
don't
red
you
and
think?
blue. It has the closest spread. So San Francisco is favored by 4 points at home in this game. Dallas didn't look great the last two games of the regular season. They looked
They looked
fantastic.
pretty great last week. Yeah.
After about the first 10 minutes of the game, they were just completely dominant throughout.
Mm-hmm.
They can rush the passer as well as anybody in the league. They have some weapons on the outside. One thing that, DK Metcalf went for like $130 against San Francisco. If you look back through San Francisco's game log, they give up big yardage to receivers on the outside. Now, I know CeeDee Lamb typically plays on the inside, but that's something to monitor right there. Can the Cowboys' weapons open this game up in the passing game? Now, Cowboys' offensive line, are they going to be healthy enough to protect up front against Nick Bosa and friends? Tyler Smith was playing left guard and Jason Peters was at left tackle in this game.
Tyler Smith's killing it.
Tyler Smith's great. Why is Jason Peters in the game? The guy can't finish a game. He's 40. He gets hurt
He's an
every
old
time
man.
he's on the field.
Tyler
He's
Smith
an
is the
old
freak
man.
athlete from Tulsa we were talking about. Could be a second round pick, but talent wise could be like a top 5 pick. And he's playing up to the top, more like towards the top 5 pick than the second round raw guy we were thinking of. I saw that.
They got Tyron Smith at right tackle. So now that he's back healthy, if you got Tyler Smith at left
Why
tackle.
is he playing right tackle?
Because Tyler Smith's been that good at left tackle.
Really?
And he's got no
Wow.
experience playing on the right side. So that's why it was either guard or tackle on the left side for Tyler Smith.
Well,
So I think you just keep Tyler Smith at left tackle, Tyron Smith at right tackle, which is where he played at USC, and then figure out in the middle.
Yeah.
You got Zach Martin at right guard. Figure out the other two. Get Jason Peters off the field.
CD Lamb versus Shavarius Ward is a big matchup in this game. I see that the kid from Oregon, what's his name?
Eric Armstead.
Ambry Thomas. the corner, is out.
Oh, boy.
It looks like he's going to be out. So he's a good corner. And then they have they have a lot of Oregon corners there, huh? Lenore.
They pick from Oregon a lot. San Francisco does.
They really do.
They're right down the street.
Yeah.
That's the local team.
We've had a few guys from there.
So I feel okay about the Cowboys' offense against the Niners' defense. I think Tony Pollard can stretch him laterally. That helps. Mm-hmm. But then the Niners' offense against Dallas' defense. Like I said, Dallas gets after it. They get after the quarterback. Brock Purdy
Cap's probably going to have a big game, though.
He's 5'11".
Dallas has the most takeaways in the NFL this year.
Dallas is kind of a dark horse this year because Dak was out for a little bit. He came back and had a slow start to coming back. I kind of like Dallas. I feel like Purdy is due for laying an egg because he's had such a good season.
I'm talking myself into this, and Shanahan has a thing in the playoffs. I don't know what it is, but he's got
something
for brain farts in the final 10 minutes of the game.
I think they need to just feed McCaffrey, and they probably will the first half, and it'll look good, and then they'll stop for some reason in the second half, and that's going to be the end of, for whatever reason, some stupid shit like that. And they'll be like, oh, that's why we lost.
Yeah.
I think Purdy's going to throw picks. I think he's going to throw a few picks to that defense.
Yeah,
I'm not convinced
Diggs is over there.
Under pressure,
I'm not convinced with the Cowboys from what I see consistently. That's the thing with the Cowboys is consistently.
You're right. They haven't been consistent.
It's one week they're really good. Next week they suck. And it's like sometimes they eke out these victories. Tampa Bay didn't even show up. I don't know what Tampa Bay team that was, but I have...
Yeah, they did not show up.
I have more faith in the playoffs by far with Kyle Shanahan than I do with Mike McCarthy. And both these teams really, and all the personnel, to be honest. So I'm going to go San Francisco. They're in Levi. And I think Dr. D will be in the building, and it'll be San Francisco win. Dr. Disrespect gets him over the hump.
Oh, there you go. I'm going to take Cowboys. I don't have a score on it, but I have a feeling Cowboys are going to win.
Yeah.
I'm excited about the
I
jerseys.
just talked myself into the Cowboys. I didn't expect to do that.
All right, I'm going San Francisco. And when you guys are both wrong, I'll see you the following week.
We'll get to rub it in our faces for a good 3 minutes.
Definitely. All right.
Brock Purdy,
I think we covered it. I'm fucking jacked up for these games this weekend.
This is always the best weekend of football.
Yeah,
it's fun
every year. This is it. This is the pinnacle of football. Yeah. 4 games, 8 best teams playing each other generally. Sometimes it's the 7 best and someone's squeaked in, but it's great. It's going to be good. Everyone's really dialed in for it.
I'm going Kansas City, Philadelphia, Cincinnati, San Francisco. Just to recap it.
Okay, I'll go Jacksonville, Philly, Cincinnati, Dallas. 3 road teams for me, which shows that I love the underdog.
Wow, good for you.
Sean?
Chiefs, Eagles, Bills, Cowboys.
Okay, 1 road team. All right.
Good stuff, guys.
Yeah.
Good stuff, man. Yeah. I had one more thing for the Patriots I wanted to touch on.
They re-signed Jacoby Myers.
No, they didn't.
They did not.
No, I'm saying do they?
Oh,
do they?
Yeah. Hell yeah.
You think they do? He's the number 1 receiver on the market this year.
Oh. I did see on Spot Track they're estimating his value at $12.5 million per year.
Right.
Which they're not going to do. They'll do half that.
I think
they do 12. I think they do 10 or 11. 12 maybe. I think they might. They have some cap space this year.
You have to do at least 10 with Jacoby.
They do not pay slot receivers. Fact.
I know, but he's their go-to first down marker guy. If they don't do that, I've heard rumors that they might go after someone big in the trade market, but what's the going rate for a receiver now? It's not $6 million. Most of the top guys are getting 20 to 30 mil, or it's like top guys 28, and then it's like 20 to 28 is the top 10 or 15 guys. Yeah, Jacoby is a little bit under that, but
what did we give?
I'm just worried.
I think we gave Aguilar like 11 a year. Yeah.
Yeah. And so Well, like free agency is always interesting where some of these positions you always expect receiver or cornerback to go off and like everyone get paid way more than they're supposed to. But then there's some years where it's just like nobody spends money on it. Everyone's like, oh, that sucks. We're not spending money on it. So I'm curious to see if his price gets driven up. If his price gets driven up, I think he's gone. If I think you have the, what we expect, the 10 to 12 million is there, I think the Patriots could put in a competitive offer. I think he's better than Aguilar, and they paid it to Aguilar.
Yeah, he is the
and
second
Aguilar
most,
is gone, right?
The receiver. Oh, Aguilar's gone.
Yeah.
The receivers on the market in terms of production for this year: Juju, then Jacoby, then Allen Lazard, then Darius Slayton, then Mac Hollins. I mean, it's not a big group. He's going to get paid.
So there was a rumor I wanted to touch on before we get off here, and then I'll bring up just a stat for you because I found this one interesting. The first thing is you could pick between Bill O'Brien and DeAndre Hopkins, and they have some checkered history there. And there's big rumors going around that DeAndre Hopkins could be in the mix for a trade. There's a new GM in Arizona that's got New England ties, and they're already saying DeAndre Hopkins is on the market for a trade. He's got reasonable cap hits next couple of years. I think 19, and I don't know what the year after that is, but the first year is 19. DeAndre Hopkins for 19 is a bargain for me, even though he's 29, I think. If you could pick between him and Bill O'Brien because of the rift there that they had at Houston, who would you pick? And the second thing I wanted to bring up was the Patriots. This is a stat. On play action last year, we had 97 dropbacks, 71 of which were catchable, for 7.9 yards per dropback, 6 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. No play action, 484 dropbacks, 5.7 yards per dropback, 13 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. And here's the key. On play action passes, we had 9.2 pressure percentage. On no play action, 29% play action. 29% pressure percentage.
Yeah, it's called dumbass offensive coordinating.
So, right more there. Play action, please. But
it's a good
where
stat.
do you guys line up on the other one?
Okay, so let me just round out that hypothetical with, let's say you have Bill O'Brien and you keep your second round pick and $20 million against the cap. Let's assume it's a second round pick that it takes to trade for DeAndre Hopkins. I feel like that's pretty fair. So it's Bill O'Brien, a second round pick, 20 million on the cap, or let's plug in, let's say Nick Caley as offensive coordinator, just to make it as big a disparity as possible. Nick Caley, no second round pick, and you have DeAndre Hopkins. So those two like full pictures.
Gotcha. What are you going with?
I'm going with Bill O'Brien on that.
Me too. In a heartbeat.
I'm going with Bill O'Brien.
Yeah.
Because of the age of the player, I think is a big thing. I think he's still really good. I think he's still top 10 in the NFL if he's healthy. But from a more complete aspect of the entire offense, I think that you can find someone to kind of fit that mold. I mean,
Devontae Parker is a light version of DeAndre Hopkins.
Right.
Their play style is similar.
Exactly.
Obviously, the level of achievement is way lower, but
I've heard Jerry Judy's on the trade block, and there's been some sniffing around of him. I'd much rather him than DeAndre.
I was
Hopkins,
never a
personally.
fan. Never.
The
a
other
fan.
thing is
Can't
you have a second
healthy.
round. You just picked a second round wide receiver.
I know. Can we
and
see what he
really
can do?
haven't tapped into it yet with Tyquan Thornton.
Maybe someone can bring him alive. He looked pretty good. He started making some strides. He had some mistakes, but he made strides. He made strides when he first started playing. He looked pretty good. Had a cold spout for 6 games, and then the last couple games, he looked like they were targeting him. They were trying to get him the ball, which means to me he's doing good in practice. He just has to translate it to the game.
I like to see him more out of the slot too. I think that's.
They got him. They got Bourne, and they got Parker still on the staff, or on the team.
It's a good start.
I think Tyquan Thornton, if you put him out as an X or a Y, it's very predictable. You put a corner on him. If you put him in the slot, then you have some decisions to make, and I don't think we saw much of that.
Right.
I'd like to see more of that.
because our offensive staff couldn't figure that out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty good. I'm just looking at the cap numbers real quick. Trent Brown seems like he's definitely a potential cap cut. 11 million savings versus 1.2 in dead money.
I would like to
year.
see him back at right tackle next year.
Yeah.
I would too.
Yeah,
I think he's
definitely.
worth it for if he can play. So, but
Yeah.
I'd keep an eye on that. They like to get rid of those types of guys.
Couple guys you could think about in the first round at 14. We'll get into that later, but Paris Johnson, Broderick Jones, Karonsky from Northwestern.
These all tackles.
Tackles.
Yeah, those are all tackles. So we'll get into that later, but I can't help myself but get ahead a little bit. So I don't
Absolutely. We got a lot to look forward to there. I really can't wait to hear what happens with these coaching staff interviews.
Mm-hmm.
Jacked up. For that.
I mean, it seems like they're going to figure it out pretty quick because they've had,
They can't wait.
Kaylee already. They had someone in. They have someone tomorrow, or what's his name? The receiver, McCardell is tomorrow. Sounds like things are moving. So I would think in the next week or two we're going to have
This
an
is a
offensive
race.
coordinator named.
Make no mistake.
It is.
Off season's a race.
You're right.
So the longer you take with this, the worse it's going to go for you. You need to be quick with this.
And that's what they screwed up on last year. They didn't get in front of it, and we ended up with Matty P. So absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, I think we covered it. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Enjoy the divisional round games, even though the Patriots aren't playing this season. And, we got a lot to look forward to coming up ahead. So enjoy everything, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right, guys. See ya.
Absolutely. Adios.